The security alert came at 300 hours, piercing through the silence of Research Station Kepler 442b. Orla Chen sat up in her bunk, auburn hair disheveled, and checked her wrist display. The perimeter sensors had detected movement near Habitat Module 3, her module. She grabbed her flashlight and padded barefoot across the cold metal floor, expecting to find another curious Vexillix beetle or perhaps a malfunctioning sensor. The colony on this frontier world was only 18 months old, and the local fauna were still adjusting to human presence. What she didn't expect was the trembling. Her blanket, the thick thermal one draped across her bunk, was moving. Not the gentle rise and fall of fabric and ventilation currents, but purposeful, frightened movement. Something was underneath it. Orla approached slowly, killing her flashlight. Through the dim emergency lighting, she could make out small bulges pressing against the silvery material. Her xenobiology training kicked in. Whatever was under there was small, warm-blooded, and clearly terrified. She knelt beside the bunk. "It's okay," she whispered, though she knew the words meant nothing to whatever hid beneath. A soft chittering sound emerged, high-pitched, almost like earth kittens, but with a crystalline quality that sent shivers down her spine. Carefully, she lifted one corner of the blanket. 3 pairs of eyes stared back at her, reflecting the red emergency lights like rubies. The cubs, for that's clearly what they were, couldn't have been more than a few weeks old. Their bodies were covered in midnight blue fur that seemed to absorb light, and their faces held an unsettling blend of feline grace and something wholly alien. Retractable claws, clearly visible even at this young age, marked them as predators. Orla recognized the species immediately. Nyxthara, the apex predators of Kepler 442b's northern continent. Adults stood nearly 3 meters tall and had been observed taking down prey twice their size. The research team had standing orders to maintain a minimum distance of 500 meters, and she had 3 of their babies in her bed. The largest cub, barely the size of a house cat, hissed defensively, placing itself between Orla and its siblings. Its tiny body shook with a combination of fear and instinctive aggression. "Easy there, little one," Orla murmured. She slowly sat on the floor, making herself smaller, less threatening. "Where's your mother?" As if in answer, a distant roar echoed across the plains beyond the habitat. The cubs huddled closer together and the chittering became more desperate. Orla's heart sank as understanding dawned. The mother was out there, probably hunting, and something had separated her from her young. Perhaps the perimeter fence, perhaps rival predators, perhaps simple panic when human floodlights had activated. The cubs had done what any frightened young creature would do. They'd found a dark, warm place to hide and wait for safety. Protocol said she should call James Okoye, the security chief. Protocol said she should evacuate the module and let the wildlife relocation team handle this. Protocol said a lot of things. Orla looked at the 3 small, terrified faces peering at her from beneath her blanket. "Screw Protocol," she said softly. She moved slowly, telegraphing every motion as she'd been trained. The cubs watched her with those intelligent, unsettling eyes as she reached for her emergency rations. She tore open a protein pack, synthesized meat that supposedly approximated earth beef but tasted like regret, and held out a small piece. The largest cub's nose twitched. Its defensive posture wavered. "That's right," Orla encouraged. "I'm not going to hurt you." It took 15 minutes of patience, but eventually the cub crept forward and snatched the food from her fingers. Its siblings followed moments later, their fear temporarily overcome by hunger. Soon all 3 were eating from her hand, their crystalline purrs filling the small module. Orla smiled. This was why she'd left Earth, left behind a comfortable university position to come to this frontier world. Not for the research papers or the glory of first contact, but for moments like this. The simple, profound connection between species separated by evolution and light years. She spent the next hour slowly gaining their trust, speaking in low, soothing tones. Eventually, exhaustion overtook wariness. One by one, the cubs climbed into her lap, curling around each other in a pile of dark fur and gentle breathing. The largest maintained its protective position even in sleep, one paw resting possessively across its siblings. Orla carefully lifted them back onto her bunk and pulled the blanket over them. She settled on the floor with her back against the wall, content to keep watch. Her wrist display buzzed. James finally checking the alert. Got movement in your module. You okay? His text read. Fine, she typed back. Just some visitors. I'll explain in the morning. Visitors? Orla, what was she muted the device outside the Mother Nixthera roared again, closer now. Orla accessed the habitat controls and opened a gap in the perimeter fence. Just wide enough, just for tonight. She watched through the window as a massive shape prowled into view, following a scent trail that led straight to Module 3. The Mother approached cautiously, her powerful body tense. Orla deactivated the external lights and stepped back from the window. For a long moment nothing happened. Then came the scratching at the door, gentle, almost questioning. Orla took a breath and opened it. The adult Nixithera was magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. But her eyes, when they found her cubs sleeping peacefully under the human's blanket, softened with unmistakable relief. She looked at Orla, and in that gaze, something passed between two mothers, one human, one alien, both understanding the universal language of protecting the young. The Nixthara carefully gathered her cubs, each one mewing sleepily as they were lifted. Before leaving, the massive predator paused, touched her nose gently to Orla's hand, a gesture of acknowledgement, perhaps even gratitude, and vanished into the night. James burst through the door 3 minutes later, weapon drawn, to find Orla sitting on her bunk, wrapped in her blanket, grinning like an idiot. You're going to think I'm crazy, she began. Too late, he said. What happened? Orla looked at the empty space where the cubs had been, at the dark fur still clinging to her blanket, at the muddy paw prints leading back to the wilderness. I just made first contact, she said. The real kind.